This, I'm sorry, but this spread collar trend, it's been going on for like 20 years, and it's time to stop this stuff. It's ridiculous. Um, the spread collar is the most unappealing, unattractive, blah, average guy, boring, ineffectual, uh, aesthetic, uh, contributor to a man's appearance. The spread collar is nowhere. Okay. And people have been wearing these goddamn spread collars for like 20 years, and it's time to stop. The pendulum needs to swing back, okay, to the vertical collar. Okay. So I want to preface the discussion by talking about what makes a man or a woman attractive. The thing that makes a man or a woman attractive is geometry. Okay, so when you look at like clothing or haircuts or anything that affects the face, um, it's all about enhancing and sort of formalizing the implied geometry. So I'll give you an example, a non-collar example. So a Western business suit or a men's dress suit, right? If you look at what a dress suit's all about, it's about transforming the physical appearance of the man into like strict geometry. So that's why if you look at the shoulder, if you look at a man wearing just a shirt, the shoulder's kind of ragged and it comes down, it goes up, and if you look at a man's business suit, it's padded and the fabric's cut and trimmed and laid in a way that it becomes geometric. They're straight. You get a straight line on the shoulder, right? And it's more appealing. It's formalizing or finishing off the implied, right? Sort of realizing the implied geometry in the male form. Okay. Same thing with this. If you look at a photo of a man wearing a good suit, and this, you've got straight lines, the sleeves, the body becomes like the implied V shape, right? But it's kind of straight. The slacks are cut and they hang in a way that they're straight, right? So if you step back and look at the form, it's very geometric, right? Same thing with the face. So the clothes that we wear affect the appearance of our face, and the collar has a major effect on that. And you have several elements to the collar that affect uh, or enhance the geometry of the face. And what I'd like to do is show you a photo of a collar and explain what I mean. Okay, so uh, I understand this is John Kennedy when he was very young, but um, it was hard. I spent a lot of time trying to find good photos and examples of vertical collars, and it was hard to find when I Googled vertical collar. So, um, yeah, it's a good example to illustrate my point. So, this is John Kennedy when he was obviously very young. Um, I forget when he was born. I'm guessing this was in like I don't know, the teens or the 20s. Um, but this sort of vertical collar with he has a collar pin in the 80s. This was actually very popular. This experienced a resurgence. I actually had a collar pin in the 80s, and they were very vertical collars. Um, or there were two types of collars. One of them was this vertical collar in the 80s. So anyhow, so when you look at a collar, there are several elements. The geometry, you can think of the face in terms of geometry. Break it down into you have geometric forms, like you could look at the forehead as a rectangle, right? Um, you have think of symmetries, right? So a vertical line dividing the face. And you can think of like vertical and horizontal lines. So obviously the eyes form a implied horizontal line, the eyebrows, an implied horizontal line, the mouth is an implied horizontal line, the chin line is an implied horizontal. It's a horizontal line. Um, Other things you look at are the verticals are the side of the face, um, the the nose, this part of the lip, and then just the implied long line that comes from the center of the hairline all the way down the nose, down the lip, to the center of the chin, to the continuing to like the center of the neck, the uh, Adam's apple, and the windpipe. Like that's an implied line, right? So when you look at a collar, um, you can create sort of a vertical line with the split in the collar. The sides are a vertical line. And then you've got like the spread of the collar. That's another line, right? So with a spread collar, I'll show a photo later, but it's very it's horizontally oriented, but it's not even like a horizontal line. That's why it doesn't work. So when you have a vertical collar, right, one that's high and that doesn't spread in the center, but they can cut the two sides come together and can meet, right? Um, it's emphasizing the vertical lines of the face, and that's why it looks so good. Okay, so if you took this, see this collar is very high. It comes like almost like above the Adam's apple, right? There was another type of collar in the '80s that was popular that came way below the Adam's apple, but it still was vertical in the center. It didn't spread. All right. Um, the other thing that's emphasized is you've got your jawline, okay, and the the line of the collar, the top line, horizontal line of the collar, mimics the jawline. What you'll see is it looks better when the collar's high because it's very close to the jawline, right? So that you can see like they become like parallel lines and they complement each other, they emphasize each other. Whereas if it's a short collar, not a high collar, there's a great distance and you just don't see that mirroring. It's not a strong striking form, right? Because you've got all the vertical neck between the two lines, right? So when they're close together, it really strengthens the look. So that's one of the reasons a high collar works, right? A vertical collar works is that it provides a horizontal V that mirrors the jawline. That's one thing. Then you've got strong verticals on the side that emphasize the vertical lines of the face, all of them. And then you've got the strong vertical, if it's a vertical collar where it meets in the center, that's another strong vertical that emphasizes the vertical lines of the face, right? Um, so that's the strength of a vertical collar. It's emphasizing sort of, reinforcing the jawline and then emphasizing the strong vertical lines of the face for sort of like formalizing them. Okay. Now what I want to do is show you a spread collar and show you how it looks totally different. So I did want to give another example of a vertical collar. And I just remembered that John Kennedy Jr., because he was an '80s person, that he wore a lot of very vertical collars because it was a thing in the '80s, right? Um, but you can see here, I mean, he looks obviously very attractive. But if you compared him, wearing this collar to like wearing a T-shirt, right? The, the lines of the collar are going to emphasize and bring out the geometric lines of his face, and he's just going to look more striking. So you can see here, it's a high collar. So you can see my point about the line that the collar forms, the sort of V line. It's mirroring or echoing the V of the jawline. So that's one thing that just makes it more striking. When you reinforce a line like that and echo it so closely, it's reinforcing it. And then, as I said, it's a high collar. So you've got, I know he's at an angle here, his neck's and his head's at an angle, but there's strong vertical lines here, right? And and he has a geometric face. So you've got the vertical lines at this forehead here, vertical lines of this part of his face, and then the vertical lines of the center line of the nose, the lips, right, and the chin. Um, so you see my point. This looks very striking, and and then I'll take a moment to contrast this with a spread collar. Okay. First, I want to make a comment before I go to the spread collar. This whole idea of the geometry of the face. So let me give you another example. When a man is younger and he has a straight hairline, right? That's a straight line. It's a horizontal line, and that's geometric, right? And it actually helps create the rectangle of his forehead. When the hairline starts to recede, right? And if it recedes a lot, it looks you lose that geometry. Okay, and that's why if you notice a man, if he starts to lose his hair, then he grows a beard, and he doesn't do one of these modern beards where they cut like paisley designs in the beard, and right. But it, but if you do a traditional beard where they have strong lines, right? Um, they it enhances their appearance because they're adding a strong geometric lines back to the face. Okay, that make up for the lost uh, strong horizontal line up here. Okay, so it's another reason, I feel actually glasses look good on people. It adds a very strong horizontal element to the face. You're re-emphasizing or building up a horizontal line, and just like the collar does, formalizing the line, right? Formalizing the implied geometry of a line with the glasses. Same thing like if a guy's losing his hair and he wears a hat or something, right? Especially like a beret, it creates a strong horizontal line. So anyhow, so looking at a spread collar, um, you can see my point. So the other point here is that it's not just that it's a spread collar. The spread collars are usually low, right? So we talk about a vertical collar. Remember, it's not just that it's vertical in the center; it's that it's also high. It's usually higher, right? So these spread collars, they're low, right? So see my point here about see how far away the V of the neckline is from the V of the face, right? It looked much stronger. Let me go back to um, right. See how when they're close together, it's a much stronger, striking geometric look, right? Versus this great distance. When you get this long neckline, because the collar is low and short, it loses the effect here. The, this this V is no longer closely associated with the V of the jawline. So you lose that. Then, what you're losing here, you're also losing the vertic because it's a low, short collar. You're losing the verticality of the necklines here, the vertical neckline. So you get no vertical emphasis here to mirror and elicit and strengthen the vertical lines of the face. So you lose that, right? It might be okay if the lost vertical lines were replaced by strong horizontal lines, but you don't get that. They're not replaced by strong. There's no strong horizontal line here. This just becomes this weak new line that has no relation to the face. I guess you could kind of, okay, maybe it reflects this part of the smile, but it's not a strong relationship at all. So that's what I mean when I say like the these spread collars just do nothing. They really do. They're worthless in terms of a man's appearance. So I don't know why they continue to be popular. I also want to say that's turtlenecks actually do a couple of things. They're obviously high. They give you a strong vertical line. I think everyone looks good in a turtleneck. It looks better in a turtleneck. So they give you a strong vertical line. You can also look at them as giving you a strong horizontal line. But in addition to that, what they do is they don't mirror the jawline, but they provide definition to it because it gives you a solid color that creates something to contrast the jawline. In other words, if you just have a neck, a bare neck. See how I lose my jawline? And then when I put the turtleneck back up, all of a sudden my jawline becomes defined. It's because it's not against something the same color. It's contrasting, so you can see the line clearer. So you see my point.